coat, white shoes, black hat, Cadillac, yeah. The boys are John Bond. Black coat, white shoes, black hat, Cadillac, yeah.
YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Silver and Gold Stack Attack. Hope everyone's doing well, and I just want to thank you for being here and for all the amazing support. You guys already know you're a part of the best damn community here on YouTube, without a doubt. And real quick, happy Father's Day to all you dads out there, and to my own, happy Father's Day, love you. But I uploaded a video recently in regard to selling a little bit of my silver on the spike, and I got a check from my LCS for just under $5,000. And in turn, I deposited that check with no issues whatsoever. But it got me thinking, with everything going on with the banks these days and their links to the IRS, are they reporting large deposits to the IRS?
I'm your huckleberry.
Well, the answer is yes and no. But before I get into that, it's important to note that if I made any profit on that silver that I sold, I have to report it as a capital gains tax. Now, talking about the CGT would be a long video all on its own. So here's a brief definition. It's a tax on profits made on an investment when that investment is finally sold. For example, you bought a Silver Eagle at $15 back in the day, and you end up selling it for 30 bucks. Well, your friendly IRS wants a cut of that $15 profit. Up to 28%, depending on your tax bracket. So it could be less, around 15% or so. And the tax doesn't just apply to long holds, like over decades. It could also be applied to gains made within days or even hours of selling that investment at a profit. However, if you sold at a loss, then you go from a capital gain to a capital loss. And you can still report that loss, so you'll need to be sure you have documentation that shows the purchase price being higher than the return on the sale. Now, why would you report the loss? Well, realized capital losses can also be used to reduce your tax bill, and you can use those losses against gains during a tax year, allowing you to reduce some of your income from your tax return. And I believe, I don't know if it's changed, but I believe you can claim up to $3,000 per year for capital losses. So it does help a little bit to report them. Anyway, that's just a really brief synopsis on the CGT. Please be sure to consult a tax professional. Don't go by some dude on YouTube when it comes to this stuff. It's way too important. And I can get you into hot water if you don't file this stuff correctly and diligently. So what does all this have to do with banks and your deposits anyway? Well, I'm about to give you the lowdown. All right, so you're selling some silver and gold. The only way the buyer can pay you is, let's say, by check. Bottom line is this: banks are getting downright nosy about large or even irregular deposits into our accounts. Now, most of us understand that any deposit over 10K is going to involve the bank instantly. They're going to question that deposit because they're required to by law. So after they question you, they're going to fill out a currency transaction report, or what's called a CTR, and that info is going straight to the federal government through the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is part of the Department of the Treasury. And this whole procedure is part of what's called the Bank Secrecy Act that was passed in 1970, and it was updated in 2002 as part of the Patriot Act. Now, the goal of this requirement is meant to assist the government in tracking financial crimes, like money laundering, terrorism, and whatnot, and that's fine. But look, anyone with a sense knows that it's also about getting their cut of the profits of sales that usually would go unreported as well. They want it all. Now, I'm not telling you how to do your business, but I will say this. At least for now, cash is king when it comes to transactions like this. Checks, crypto, PayPal, all those other methods of payment are going to leave an administrative trail. And this is one of the exact reasons our government desperately wants to convert our currency to a digital dollar. It represents transparency in all transactions and control, and they'll try to sell you on the misnomer that the digital dollar is all about convenience and that a cashless society will be more streamlined.
Are you crazy? Or just plain stupid?
Stupid is stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
I guess.
Oh, guess what? Digital dollars are going to suffer the same issues that paper dollars did, and that's being subject to loss of buying power and inflation. It's not immune to it. And that's in addition to loss of privacy, which is the big one. You can figure out where I'm going with all this. So I can almost hear the gears grinding out there right now. As some of you may be thinking, hey, no big deal. If I make more than 10 grand on the sale of my metals, I'm just going to piecemeal it out to the bank in smaller increments over time to avoid going over that reporting threshold.
Don't you do it! Don't you!
Well, that, my friends, is called structuring, and it also happens to be illegal. Worse yet, if the bank suspects you're trying to avoid that $10,000 threshold by making multiple deposits out of range of your usual deposits, then they can still initiate a CTR to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So if you get busted, you're going to be subject to penalties and legal consequences. Now, what if you're just depositing even smaller amounts here and there until you get it all in the bank? Does that make you safe? Nope. Unbeknownst to you, your bank could still file what's called a Suspicious Activity Report, or SAR, to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, where they're going to investigate the activity to determine whether your account is involved in any fraud, money laundering, or even terrorist funding. Now, at that point, you're likely going to be asked to provide information about the source of the funds, like invoices, receipts, or any other documentation that can show where that money came from. So be careful about that. If you think you're going to slick them up, you might want to think twice. So one last note on capital gains that you're going to have to remember when you sell your silver and gold. Short-term capital gains will apply if you held the metals for 1 year or less before selling, and your profits are going to be taxed at your regular income tax rates up to a maximum of 28%. And long-term capital gains will apply if you held the metals for more than a year before you sold it, and those qualify for lower tax rates than standard. Just be mindful that specific long-term capital gain rates can vary, okay? You'll also want to be aware of the thresholds where silver and gold coins are reportable when they're sold by an LCS or any other kind of dealer. They also have to report certain levels of sales. For example, let's say you're buying I don't know, US 90% pre-65 silver coins, whether they're halves, quarters, dimes, whatever. If you buy a face value of $1,000 or more, well, that seller has to report the sale by submitting a 1099-B to the IRS. But look, this could be a completely different video, and to be honest, we've gone on long enough with this one. Maybe I'll touch on that subject another time if you guys want me to. Just let me know. All right, there you have it. Banks are most definitely keeping an eye on your unusual deposits, and they're required by law to ask you questions about the legitimacy and source of that cash. Now, once they've done that, off goes the report to the federal government. And again, I have barely touched on this subject here, okay? Please make sure you consult a qualified tax attorney if any of these scenarios with selling apply to you. Last thing you need is be messing with the IRS and getting on their radar. It never ends well for a good majority of the folks they investigate. Just know it. Anyway, be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are. You guys know I love going through them, so make sure you sound off. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Silver and Gold Stack Attack. And if you made it this far, well, kudos to you. I'll definitely catch up with you in the next episode. But in the meantime, oh yeah, you know what's up.
What do you want to do with your life?
I want to stack.
Damn right. Get stacked. Stay safe and be well, everyone. I am out of here. Peace, folks.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Oh, yes. And what was that beginning, middle, and end part again?